Good morning. You have found Unity of Joplin, a positive path for spiritual living. I'm Ann Leach. I'm the platform assistant today, and I have a big favor to ask. We are really wanting to up our game in terms of sharing the wonderful message of unity. So, would you please like, share, or even comment, not just on today's post, but all of the posts that come from Unity of Joplin? You know, if these messages that Reverend Gordon shares, if the insights that you receive from Unity publications rock your world, share it with your world. Would you please? We'd appreciate it because we're all about getting the word to the people that most need to hear it. And wouldn't you agree? The world needs the message of unity today. Speaking of the world, we have a special video called Together We Can Change the World.
We're going to change the world.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I believe it's not too late. Together we can change the world. Lay the puzzle pieces out, find out what it's all about. Together we can change the world. Can't do it by myself, so I'm asking for your help. Together we can change the world. Sail past where it's been charted, roll your sleeves up, let's get started. Together we can change the world. Together we can change the world. With our hands and with our hearts, we can dare to make a start. Together we can change the world. What if we spoke with one voice, knowing that we have a choice? Together we can change the world. Can't do it by myself, so I'm asking for your help. Together we can change the world. Sail past where it's been charted, roll your sleeves up, let's get started. Together we can change the world. Together we can change the world. Change your mind and change your life. Set aside the fear and strife. Together we can change the world. When we open up our eyes and we start to realize, together we can change the world. Change your mind. Can't do it by myself, so I'm asking for your help. Together we can change the world. Change your mind. Sail past where it's been charted, roll your sleeves up, let's get started. Together we can change the world. Change your mind. Can't do it by myself, so I'm asking for your help. Together we can change the world. Change your mind. Sail past where it's been charted, roll your sleeves up, let's get started. Together we can change the world. Together we can change the world. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I believe it's not too late. Together we can change the
Oh, our children know, don't they? Oh, all right. Let's roll up our sleeves and get started with the service today, acknowledging our music and production team, Gary and Jerry, John, and thank you, Michael, for your tech-savvy ways. We appreciate all of you. We are blessed to have someone monitoring the chat for us in Facebook, and that is Billy. Billy Phelps is one of our trustees of the day, and he's there for you. Any questions you have, anything you need, just reach out to Billy. And as I said, I'm Ann. I'm here to help guide us through the service. And of course, we'll be hearing from Reverend Gordon for our meditation and message today. Before we jump into all of that, just a couple of announcements. Our Earth Care team is still doing Meatless Mondays, so don't forget that part. But also, we have an aluminum recycling cooperative. Wow, that sounds so fancy, right? But what we're doing is making recycling of cans available. If you have cans in your house that you would like to release, please consider dropping them off at the church. We have a can, well, I like what Michael calls it, the can, because we can, by the dumpster, and you can just deposit them there. And yeah, you know, we'll get a few extra bucks out of it, but really it's about taking care of the planet. So that's available to you. And then before the service, Gordon was mentioning, it's already time to talk about our Easter service. We don't have a slide for that, but we will be sharing Easter Sunday together outside. So we are still socially distanced, and we'll be doing that at the church. So we look forward to seeing you on Easter Sunday. More details will be coming. And now we'll prepare for the inspiration of the day. Oh yeah, thanks for this reminder. Definitely. If you want some virtual fellowship, stick around after the service. Gordon will be answering any questions. If you have any prayer requests, we're happy to hear those. Yeah, always glad to see you all, hear you, even if we can't be together in person. Now we'll have our moment of inspiration, a Lenten reading, and Kim Barron will be sharing that with us.
Thank you, Anne. Good morning, everyone. Our reading this morning is from Isaiah 55, verses 1 through 13. Oh, everyone who thirsts, come to the waters, and you that have no money, come, buy and eat. Come, buy wine and milk, without money and without price. Why do you spend your money for that which is not bread, and your labor for that which does not satisfy? Listen carefully to me, and eat what is good, and delight yourselves in rich food. Incline your ear, and come to me. Listen, so that you may live. I will make with you an everlasting covenant, my steadfast, sure love for David. See, I made him a witness to the peoples, a leader and commander for the peoples. See, you shall call nations that you do not know, and nations that you do not know, you shall run to you, because of the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, for he has glorified you. Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call upon him while he is near. Let the wicked forsake their way, and the unrighteous their thoughts. Let them return to the Lord, that he may have mercy on them, and to our God, for he will abundantly pardon. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are your ways my ways, say the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts. For as the rain and the snow come down from heaven, and do not return there until they have watered the earth, making it bring forth and sprout, giving seed to the sower and bread to the eater, so shall my word be that goes out from my mouth. It shall not return to me empty, but it shall accomplish that which I purpose, and succeed in the thing for which I sent it. For you shall go out in joy and be led back in peace. The mountains and the hills before you shall burst into song, and all the trees of the field shall clap their hands. Instead of the thorn shall come up the cypress, instead of the briar shall come up the myrtle. And it shall be to the Lord for a memorial, for an everlasting sign that shall not be cut off. We should ever remember that our youth, which we love so well, never really dies. It merely falls asleep in the realm of the subconscious. People grow old because they let the youth idea fall asleep. By using spiritual understanding, they can awaken it. The awakening of youthful energies is necessary to one in the regeneration. The body cannot be refined and made like its creator, eternal, before all the thoughts necessary to its perpetuation are revived in it. Jesus represents man in the regeneration, that is, man in the process of restoring his body to its pristine purity, where it will live on perpetually without old age, disease, or death. A necessary step in this process of body restoration is the quickening of the vitalizing energies in the subconsciousness that feed the body and give it the life force that renews its youth. Eternal youth is one of the God-given ideas that man loves. Waste of substance is the great sin that results in body disintegration. It is the sense mind that causes all waste, whether in the organism or in the more external realm called the world. Jesus came to save men from sin and to make them ready for an abundant entrance into the glorious kingdom of Christ, which is to be established on the earth. We can get at the subject of conservation definitely by considering the life hid with Christ in God. For the hidden, protected life is the conserved life. I now make conscious union the substance of all spiritual attributes, as I affirm. Through Christ, the divine economy is active in me, and I conserve the spiritual essences in all phases of my life.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Kim. Oh, so many nuggets of truth in that passage. Very powerful. We appreciate it. We're going to move on now with a special song from Gary, John, and Jerry, and that will be followed by Gordon's meditation.
Listen, children, to a story that was written long ago about a kingdom on a mountain and the valley folk below. On the mountain was a treasure buried deep beneath a stone, and the valley people swore they'd have it for their very own.
Go ahead and hate your neighbor. Go ahead and cheat our friend. Do it in the name of heaven. Justify it in the end. There won't be any trumpets blowing come the judgment day, on the bloody morning after.
One tin soldier rides away. So the people of the valley sent a message up the hill, asking for the buried treasure, tons of gold for which they'd kill. Came the answer from the kingdom, with our brothers we will share all the secrets of our mountain, all the riches buried there.
Go ahead and hate your neighbor. Go ahead and cheat our friend. Do it in the name soldier rides away.
Now the valley cried with anger, mount your horses, draw your sword, and they killed the mountain people, so they won their just reward. Now they stood beside the treasure on the mountain, dark and red, turned the stone and looked beneath it. Peace on earth was all it said.
Go ahead and hate your neighbor. Go ahead and cheat a friend. Do it in the name of heaven. Justify it in the end. There won't be any trumpets blowing. Come the judgment day on the bloody morning after. One tin soldier rides away.
Oh, and Gary and Jerry and John, thank you so very much. You may be thinking that's a rather odd song for a church to be playing, to be leading into a time of meditation. But I chose that song specifically for this series because it has been a consciousness that has been all too prevalent in our life experience, and it is a consciousness that we are committed to changing. And so as you close your eyes, get comfortable in your seat, bring to mind that song. Bring to mind the consciousness of a species of being who feels lack, who feels fear, who experiences times of greed and avarice, times where there is us and there is them. And know that as we enter this time of meditation, our vision, our purpose, our affirmation is that those times are coming to an end. We envision a new world. Breathing into that, we come into conscious union with divine mind. Imagining the world as God created it, as God sees it. A world of many diverse peoples, many diverse religions, many diverse languages, ways of living, experiences of love, but a world that is beautiful and united and peace-filled. Breathing into this vision, I see all my brothers and sisters standing hand in hand, every color, every religion, every nationality, every identity, many paths, one people. I imagine a world where instead of investing trillions of dollars into military might, we lay down our arms and invest in each other. I envision a world where, though it has many languages, the universal language is the language of unconditional love. I imagine a world where no one is a stranger. And when I meet those who think differently than I do, perhaps even radically different, I am open to a gentle curiosity and a desire to understand. For in that understanding, I know that bridges are built. It is in that understanding that awakening occurs. Not the awakening of one side being right and one side being wrong, but an awakening to the truth that lies within all. I rest for a moment in silent contemplation of a world where I see no stranger. I invite you to bring into your consciousness the image of one who is different from you, perhaps a different political ideology, a different religion, a different color, or different sexual orientation. Bring to mind someone who challenges you, who maybe makes you feel uncomfortable. And allow yourself to feel a gentle curiosity. Who is this individual? What do they love? What do they dislike? What kind of family life do they experience? What is their favorite music or their favorite food? Who is this person? This is not a stranger. This is someone I can learn from. This is myself in a different body. As we embark on this journey, this exploration in the coming weeks, I invite you to maintain that idea of gentle curiosity, of the possibility that in this curiosity, there can be no strangers. And we know that that presence and power of the divine spirit we call the Christ that is in us is in each and every human being, regardless of religion or any other man-made division. Each and every human being on earth has the spark of the divine within them. And so committing to the journey with a grateful open heart and open mind, we return to a physical awareness of ourself and of each other. When you are ready, I invite you to open your eyes and be here now.
Ah, thank you. That was powerful. I appreciate that, Gordon. And if you have had some moments of inspiration, received some spiritual food already today, maybe it was a moment with the music, something in Kim's message or reading, or even in communing with your spirit in meditation, Let's symbolically give our thanks for that in our sacred exchange. This is the time to take out your tithes and love offerings as we offer these in gratitude for the spiritual food that we receive. If you are able and willing, you could share that gift through the unityofjoplin.org website. Simply go to the donate button, select general fund, feel confident that you're giving your gift safely and securely. You could even text your gift to the number on the screen. You just text give and then plug in that number. And of course, good old snail mail works as well. We are blessed by your sharing. So let's bless these gifts with our prosperity blessing. In a universe overflowing with the allness of God, all of the needs of Unity of Joplin and those we serve are bountifully met. From every direction, known and unknown, expected and unexpected, our abundant good is here now. Thank you, God. Because we know that these tithes and offerings are dedicated to the will and work of Spirit through Unity of Joplin and for the highest good of all. And so it is. Amen. Thank you all. Thank you, friends. And speaking of friends, we have a song from John and Jerry, and then we'll hear more from Reverend Gordon.
You got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. When the road looks rough ahead and you're miles and miles from your nice warm bed, you just remember what your old pal said. Son, you got a friend in me. Yeah, you got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. You got trouble, and I got them too. There isn't anything I wouldn't do. If we stick together, we can see it through. 'Cause you got a friend in me. Yeah, you got a friend in me. Now some folks might be a little bit smarter than I am, bigger and stronger too, maybe, but none of them will ever love you the way I do. Just me and you, boy. And as the years go by, our friendship will never die. You're gonna see it's our destiny. You got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, John and Jerry. Beautiful. Well, we are embarking on a new journey of exploration into this book that is called See No Stranger, a memoir and manifesto of revolutionary love. And the author is Valerie Kaur. Valerie is a Sikh, I believe, third generation American, and has quite a story that she has shared. And it's a story worth looking at. I don't know about you, but I have felt for a long time that this experience we have been going through really for about the last 20 years, especially for about the last 5 years, and certainly the last year, has been very much a collective dark night of the soul for the entire race, for the entire species of humanity. We've come a long ways, and it has not been an easy journey. And we've come to a point where I believe there is a moment where we have the opportunity to make a shift, to step out of this darkness that we've been in and decide, has this been the darkness of a tomb or the darkness of a womb? I think it's been the darkness of a womb. But there's work to be done. And so we're going to be looking at what we can do to bring about this rebirth, this reemergence, this resurrection of all the things that every great teacher like Jesus has told us and taught us about love, about compassion, about unity. We just completed here in our church a celebration of our Black Unity ministers for Black History Month. And I've done my best to tell the truth about the story of Black people and their experiences within the Unity movement. It wasn't always good. We weren't always awake. We had work to do as well. And thanks to people like Johnny Coleman, Della Reese, Galen McDowell, and Ruth Mosley, who had the courage to shine the light on the darkness in our own movement, we changed. We grew. We admitted that we were wrong and that we had lessons to learn. And then we did the work. Until now, we are a very inclusive movement. But it took labor. All births take labor. And that is what we are going to be talking about with this series. You know, as a nation, as I said, we've been going through a very dark time. And Easter is 4 weeks away. 4 weeks, yes, counted right. 4 weeks away. What is Easter? You know, traditional Christianity, it's about the story of Jesus rising from the dead. But for us in Unity, it's more about the resurrection of the Christ Spirit within each and every one of us. That ability to step out of what we have been, to allow that to pass away so that we can step out in new understanding, in higher awareness. And so we have to be about the work. And that's what this series is about. This series is about how do we take that quantum leap? How do we shift the paradigm that the human race and our nation have been going through? Well, I'm here to tell you first off that I'm going to be honest in this series. I'm honest in all the series, but I'm going to be brutally honest in this one. And I'm also going to tell you that we will not make that paradigm shift unless we can take an honest look at who we are, where we have been, how we got there, why we got there. And then we can discern what we need to do to change it. We have to do this. The time is now. We must do this now. We must do this in order to heal, to grow, in order to decide, has this dark night of the soul been a time in a tomb or a womb? Is it a death or is it a rebirth? It will depend on the choice that we as a species make. This series, based on the book by Valerie Carr, is not about making a blind choice, though. I want this experience to be about a new birth. And I want it to be about understanding. Understanding why we've arrived at this point. Because that is part of the healing. My prayer is that as a species, we can do this. My prayer is that we in the Unity movement will be one of the ones of many who will be leading this shift. You know, I know many people come to Unity and, you know, they come for that nice, happy, what I call the fluffy bunny experience. You know, where we hug. Well, we haven't been able to do that in a year. But where we hug and we enjoy each other's company, and that's important. Community is very important. But Unity has always been about education. about growth, about evolution, about becoming more like the teachers that we admire, Jesus, Buddha, and so many others. It's about education. And so the next few Sundays, we'll be working on that. And I will make you a promise that this will be an experience that will lead to a rejoicing if we do the work. We will learn new things. We will admit our errors. We will really see what we need to shift and accept that we made mistakes, all of us. Because in that recognition, we can change things. I want you to stop for a moment and notice something. How many times did I use the word honest in the last couple minutes? A bunch. I didn't count them, but a bunch. It's important. This series is about being honest because we can only change when we are honest. So it's about us as individuals. It is about the species, the Homo sapien species. It's about all of us on the planet. And it's about our nation, too. We are a leader in the world. And as a leader in the world, we are called to be honest. We are called to be authentic. And we are called to change and grow. It won't always be fun, but it will bring about that paradigm shift. So hang in there with me over these next couple weeks. I promise you it will be worth it. So let's begin. Have you ever wondered how we got to this point in history? How we got here? You know, if you're my age in your early 60s or older or even younger, you may remember a time where we thought everything was great, especially those of us who were middle class white. We thought everything was wonderful. And we may be asking now, well, what happened to our country? Well, we know we were not perfect. But one of the things we do also know is that our country was a work in progress. But something happened. Something happened. I don't know about you, but it seems to me like for the last couple years, we've been regressing, not progressing. And as I really think about it, I realized that this whole century, this whole 21st century, has started out with a steady slide, it seems like, backwards. And especially the last 5 or 6 years. Do you realize, think about this, especially those of you who are my age, think about this. There is a whole generation of adults who have never known a thriving America, who have never seen a nation or lived in a nation that wasn't at war with other nations and with itself. What happened to that idea of a more perfect union? Well, those of you who have ever sat and talked with me probably know that I have a theory. And I've held this theory for a long, long time. That we made a mistake back on 9/11. That event was not the beginning, but it was a tipping point in what was happening. Actually, the beginning, I think we can trace all the way back to the beginning of our nation. But up until 9/11, we had made progress. And as I read this book, See No Stranger, a memoir and manifesto of revolutionary love, I'm reminded of that. When our now but all but forgotten culture of hope was tragically transformed into a culture of fear. I remember where I lived in New Mexico back on 9/11 in the weeks afterwards. There were many of us, and in other places as well, that were hoping and praying for a different response to the events. And we wanted a call of diplomacy and compassion rather than just leaping into war. And of course, that message could not be heard. And rather than pause to process our shock and grieve those who we had lost or allow the world's outpouring of love and goodwill to be a balm for our national wound, our energy became immediately refocused towards war. I remember sitting there in shock and grief and pain, as like everybody else in our nation on the night of 9/11, and listening to President Bush declare a war against terrorism. And then he said this, and I remember thinking at the time, that's not the way to go. He said, "You are either with us or you are against us." Now, understand something here. I am not blaming President Bush. The president is a reflection of the consciousness of the people. So what we're talking about here is shifting the entire consciousness and where the consciousness has been. You're either for us or you're against us. You know, we never even grieved. Oh, I know there was grief. I know there was outpouring of pain and tears. I know that. But as a people, we did not grieve. Because if you know anything at all about grief, you know that it takes time. If you know about spiral dynamics and family systems on the national scale, you will know we did not grieve. Grieving is a process that takes time and stillness and presence to move through. And this, every person who has ever done any kind of studying or researching into the grief process will agree with. It is impossible to grieve and prepare to kill at the same time. So we never grieved. And the consequences of that unresolved grief for the individuals has been tragic. But the unresolved grief of a nation can be catastrophic because it releases enormous energy, and that energy is released as aggression. And because we didn't grieve, in the last 20 years, in the name of our 9/11 victims, we have waged a war on terror that began in Afghanistan and has now spanned and involved 76 nations. We're in our third decade. We've spanned 4 presidencies and cost more than $5.6 trillion. Most sadly, over 1 million people have died because of that. And also, more tragically, that same aggression that continually powers the perpetual war abroad has created new norms right here in America. For the hate and criminalization of Muslims and immigrants and people who are different than us has fueled the resurgence of a white national movement that ultimately led to the storming of the US Capitol. So what do we do? How do we change this? How do we get back to being a work in progress? How do we get back to a place of hope? How do we make an advance? Well, over the next few weeks, guided by experiences of myself, of each other, of the author of the book, Valerie Kaur, we will engage the call to show up to the labor, because we want to birth a new paradigm, and birth always requires labor. We will show up to the labor of embracing, practicing, and being love, not the emotion, but the ethic. The ethic that has anchored nonviolent movements of reformers throughout history. The ethic that moved Jesus, Buddha, Guru Nanak, and so many others to teach, to share, and to show the way for us. I'm going to pause here and just give you a little bit of background on the author herself, because it's important that we understand who she is. Valerie Kaur is the granddaughter of immigrants. Her grandfather was a Sikh. Her parents were Sikhs. She is a Sikh. Now, I realize that very many of you are unfamiliar with what Sikhism is. I have been blessed to have known many Sikhs in my life because I come from a place where we have a large Sikh population. And Sikhs believe, very much like we do in unity, they believe that all paths lead to God. They believe in equality and equanimity. They believe in spiritual evolution. I'm going to share a few pictures with you because it really, I think, will help us build a bridge of understanding. And this is not a series on Sikhism, but it's useful to know what it is. Bear with me here while I get this going. There we go. That is Hacienda Guru Ram Das in Espanola, New Mexico. Espanola, New Mexico is a very impoverished town. And Guru Ram Das many years ago was led to establish this ashram in the midst of that community. He could have established it anywhere, but he chose that community. Why? Because Sikhism teaches that we are to be of service to our brothers and sisters, regardless of whatever differences we may have in race, religion, or anything else. You can walk through that gate right there any day of the week, and there will always be hot food available. There's always clothing available. There's always shelter. There's always care, because that is what they do. Right before I left New Mexico to come to Joplin, Missouri, I participated in a youth project there with youth from Unity from 10 different states, working alongside with our Sikh brothers and sisters and people of the local community there in Espanola to plant a new orchard, because they harvest their own food to feed to the community. So just a couple pictures to show you. This is the inside of their temple. You'll notice that this particular painting has their important people on it, but it also has the Virgin of Guadalupe, Mary. Why? Because they are in a community that is largely Hispanic and Catholic, and because they agree that all paths lead to God, that compassion is not limited by a religion, that brotherhood and sisterhood are not limited by religion. We are all one. If I had a picture of the rest of that mural, you would see Jesus. You would see the Buddha. You would see Lord Krishna. You would see a Native American shaman. You would see an Aboriginal Australian shaman. You would see religious symbols from all different paths. And just so you know that I really have been there, there is a picture of me working that day. But this is my favorite. Sitting in a circle with our Sikh brothers and sisters and people of the community of Espanola and over 100 of our own youth, sharing our ideas, sharing our understandings. And as we talked, we realized that we believe the same kind of things. One of our kids would say, well, we believe that Jesus is our teacher and way shower, and so is Buddha, and so is all these others. I would say, well, we believe that. And they would say, we believe in the equality of all religions, of all races, of all gender identities and sexual orientations. And we would say, we believe that. They would say, we believe that God is the divinity that lives in each and every human being as the spark of love and truth. We believe that. It's amazing what happens when we can stop and listen to one another and discover there are no strangers. So now that we've done that, let's move on. One of the keys to doing this work is understanding what love is. What love is, the ethic of love. Cower defines it as a form of sweet labor, fierce, bloody, imperfect, and life-giving, a choice we make over and over again. And if love is sweet labor, it can be taught, modeled, and practiced, engaging all of our emotions. Joy being the gift of love. Grief being the price of love. Anger protecting that which is loved. And when we think we have reached our limit, wonder. Wonder being the act that returns us to love. What is revolutionary love? According to the author, it is the choice to enter into wonder and labor for others, for our opponents, and for ourselves, in order that we may transfer the world around us. I'm going to say that again because this is the mission statement of this whole series. Revolutionary love is the choice to enter into wonder and labor for others, for our opponents, and for ourselves, in order to transform the world around us. This is not a formal code or prescription, but an orientation to a life that is personal and political and rooted in joy. Moreover, it is a force for justice that can only be practiced in community. You know, that's probably been one of the great challenges, and maybe in the end, one of the great gifts of this pandemic, is that it has broken down traditional community. It has forced us to find new ways to connect. And ultimately, I believe we will appreciate it, this ability to come back together in community, and our communities will hopefully be more expansive, more embracing, more inclusive. The author wrote that revolutions don't happen only in grand public moments or in violent uprising, but in small pockets of people coming together to inhabit a new way of being. We birth the beloved community by becoming the beloved community. It's a process, and it's a journey that I believe Unity can relate to. She tells the story how she discovered the practice of revolutionary love in her journey of awakening. And she began to realize it when she became a mother and she was going through labor. And she realized that birthing anything new requires push. It requires stretching. It requires discomfort and sometimes even pain. But we know that birth is always worth it. She wrote this: when we wonder about people, when we grieve with them, when we choose to fight with and for them, we can build the kind of solidarity the world needs. That's the first part of the labor we must do. Learn to wonder, allow ourselves to grieve, and choose to fight with and for. And fight doesn't mean violently, but to stand up for that which can be. Individual acts of love are wonderful, but they're not going to be enough. We need to be a part of a movement that helps us wonder, grieve, and fight together. We need to be part of something bigger than the individual. You know, we talk about individual acts of kindness. It is time for communal acts of kindness. One of my favorite parts of the book so far has been where she talks about her relationship with her grandfather, who had escaped India to escape religious persecution and immigrated to Clovis, California, where she grew up on a 40-acre farm that her family had worked for almost a century, imbibing her Sikh faith through his stories and lessons. And even though she was third generation of America, because she is brown and because she wears a turban, she has experienced prejudice. She has heard all the derogatory names and been threatened with violence herself. And she has learned to deal with that. Some of it because of her grandfather, especially his story about his experience. She shares that 5 centuries ago in a village in Punjab on the Indian subcontinent, there lived a young man named Nanak. This is the stories her grandfather told her of how Sikhism came to be. It's a relatively new religion in the world, only 500 years old. But Nanak was deeply troubled by the violence he saw between Hindus and Muslims around him. And one day he disappeared on the bank of a river for 3 days. Everyone thought he had drowned. But he emerged on the 3rd day, interestingly enough, he emerged on the 3rd day with a vision of oneness, the oneness of humanity and the world. This vision threw him into a state of ecstatic wonder, and he began singing songs of devotion called Shabads, praising the divine within him and around him and in every person he met. In other words, he was in love. And love made him see with new eyes. Everyone around him was a part of him that he did not yet know. And he wrote 500 years ago, "I see no stranger, I see no enemy." And then he began to teach. He began to teach that all people could see the world in this way, explaining There is a voice inside of each of us called the Hamai. We would probably call it ego or personality. That I that names itself as separate from you. It resides in the bowl that holds our individual consciousness. But, he said, separateness is an illusion. And when we quiet the chatter in our heads, through meditation, through music, through prayer, through recitation of songs, the boundaries begin to disappear and the bowl breaks. And in a moment, for a moment, we taste the sweet truth, the nectar, that we are a part of one another. In that moment, joy rushes in long after the moment passes. We can choose to remember the truth of our interconnectedness, that we belong to one another. In other words, we choose to see no stranger. You know, awe and wonder are foundational practices of Sikhism, often practiced by repeating the Shabads. They move into that place of awe and wonder. It's the same thing that Jesus taught when he spoke of brotherhood and sisterhood, when he spoke of caring for the least of these, when he spoke words of love one another as I have loved you. It's the same message, told by different messengers down through history. It is coming into conscious communion with one another. How do we do that? How do we restore that birthright, that is the human birthright, to wonder? Think about a child. They're filled with wonder. What is that? Who is that? Why is that? If you've ever had a child, you know that some of the first things they'll ever say is, what is that? What's that? Why is that? Yeah, that is our nature. That's that inner child within. How do we bring back? How do we reclaim our birthright? You know, one of the big challenges we have in our culture is that that birthright has been quashed. But if we are safe, and if we are nurtured enough to develop our capacity to wonder again, we start to wonder about people in our lives and people around us. What are their thoughts and experiences? What is their pain and joy? What are their wants and needs? We begin to realize that they are as vast and complex as we are. In other words, we begin to see them as equals. Yes, even that person that is on extreme opposite ends of us politically, or is a different color than us, or a different sexual identity than us, or a different religion than us. Wonder allows us to begin to see each other as different and as equal. Wonder is the wellspring for love. Of course, it's easy to wonder about people near us, although I'm sure even those closest to us we could develop a little more wonder about. But it's much more difficult to wonder about the strangers, especially those who are different. One of the ways we can do that is open up and listen to their stories. Listen to their stories. Why do they believe what they believe? Not in a place of judgment, not just waiting to say, well, I think you're wrong because I believe this. And of course, my belief is right. No, to truly, gently wonder and be curious. What is their story? Sometimes it's as easy as starting the conversation with, what's your favorite food? How often something simple like that can build a bridge that heals a massive wound. It doesn't take much. This call to love beyond our own flesh and blood is ancient. It echoes down from indigenous leaders, from spiritual teachers, and from social reformers throughout history. The founder of Sikhism, Guru Nanak, called us to see no stranger. The Buddhists, to practice unending compassion. Abraham, to open our tents to all. Jesus, love one another. Muhammad, to take in the orphan. Mirabelle, to love without limit. There's an ancient Sanskrit truth that says we can look upon anyone or anything and say, I am that. or the African philosophy of Ubuntu. I am because you are. All of this, all of these people, all of these philosophies have expanded the circle of who counts as one of us, and therefore who is worthy of our care and concern. And what has been an ancient spiritual truth is now increasingly verified by science. Science is proving that we are all part of one another, that there's an energetic field that connects us. And when one piece of that energetic field is cut off or harmed, it harms all of us. And we heal that by beginning with wonder. Wonder is where love begins. And the failure of wonder is where violence starts. Once we stop wondering about others, we stop seeing them as part of ourselves, and it disables our capacity for empathy. You know, the human mind is wired to see the world in terms of us and them. Whenever we look upon another's face, our minds discern in an instant whether they are not one of us, part of our family, part of our community, part of our nation, part of our religion. But the heart does not have that separation. Those of you who participated in the How to Be an Anti-Racist class, we learned that how we see ourselves, all of us, is to see ourselves as complex individuals. When we can do that, we see that unity, we see that oneness. But if we see each other as simplified one-dimensional beings, we create a wall that is very difficult to break through. And those walls translate into behavior, because who we see as one of us determines who we let inside our circle of care and concern. Who are we willing to wonder about rather than simply judge? You know, we've been discovering that in order to counter this us and them knee-jerk habit of mind, we have to be willing to wonder about not only others, but also ourselves. What are the social, cultural, historical, religious, familial stories and experiences that have shaped our perspective? What are the fears that cause us to want to put up walls, to want to chase people away, to want to create class distinctions and other barriers between us? What has shaped our perspective? And what are we willing to change? What stories are we willing to say no longer serve us and no longer are acceptable? And what ones are we going to say, this one has truth, this one has value? Will there be stories we are willing to write that are new? You know, there's only a couple kinds of stories. There's those stories and beliefs that destroy the world we want and those that create it. And we get to decide which we choose to let into our hearts. But even as we choose to claim life-affirming, creative, healing, inclusive stories, we must be willing to labor, to stay awake. The mind has been programmed for thousands upon thousands of years. And we will have those moments when we look upon somebody who is different. And the human mind says, uh-oh, they're different. It's important that we understand what's going on there. And we don't say, oh, mind, you are evil, you are bad, bad thought. Go away, bad thought. No, the mind is doing what it does. And when we label it, we are giving it negative energy. What our labor is to do is to say, oh, yes, that is the old paradigm. Thank you. It no longer has value here. I open my mind to you who are different. I open my mind to you who don't look or think or believe or speak like I do. I let go of those old life-denying patterns and fears when they arise. And I consciously acknowledge them and gently replace them with love, forgiveness, and grace. You see, seeing no stranger is an act of will. It uses that power that we call will And when we encounter one another throughout our day, that primal reflex can be dealt with, can be acknowledged, and can be redirected. We each retain our hearts and our minds. That power to wonder. It's been buried for a long time. And as we emerge out of this dark night of the soul, we have the opportunity to rebirth it. I'm going to close with a daily word from last year because it is so powerful and it speaks to this journey we are embarking upon. I invite you to just let these words sink into your heart. I am filled with wonder and amazement as I behold the divine in every person, in all situations, in each serendipitous moment. And so it is. Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. This is going to be a powerful series, I can tell. And I was just thinking, if you want to get the book and follow along, do us a favor. If you order through Amazon, go to the Amazon Smile program, select Unity of Joplin as the beneficiary. We get a few cents off of your purchase, but it all helps. So, yeah.
On that note, Anne, we do have a link at the bottom of our homepage to our Smile, Amazon Smile.
Oh, good. Yeah, thanks. We make it really easy for you to go to unityofjoplin.org and scroll down and find that link that Michael's talking about. But yeah, I know I want to get my copy, definitely. And I noticed in the Facebook chat, a lot of you were having some good vibes to the opening song and video. That title again was Together We Can Change the World. If you'd like to look it up, YouTube it, and play it every morning when you wake up, why not? All right, we want to welcome our visitors on Facebook. Our visitor who popped by the church. We're just so grateful to have you all find us. We hope that you'll continue to check us out online through the website, our Zoom link. And if you have any questions at all, Michael is available to help you. Gordon's available. Anybody, just reach out and we will answer your questions and get back in touch. And a reminder that the Tithely giving link is also in the chat. Thank you, Billy, for taking care of us. And we have a little bit more business. We have our children's blessing. And then drop into the chat if it's your birthday month. This is the first Sunday of March, and we want to honor you and celebrate you. Right. So right now, though, let's honor and celebrate our children, not just our little kids, but the kid inside with our blessing. Children, you are a perfect child of God, and God and I love you just the way you are. We really do. We really do. And yes, birthday Sunday. Yes, Novella, I see you in Zoom. Her Novella's birthday, it was a milestone one, was March 3rd. And Billy, I see yours is March 16th. Congratulations. That's all my Facebook friends. But we honor you, we celebrate you, and let's sing our birthday song.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Unitic. Happy birthday to you. God is blessing you now. God is blessing you now. God is blessing you. You are wonderful. God is blessing
Amen. Amen. All right, folks, let's join together for the singing of our peace song, followed by our prayer of protection.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as Creator, we are family. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.